Is your refrigerator running?
No, I don't think so. Yes.
It is? Because I can't even get mine to walk.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week we are talking about refrigeration.
Ooh, cold and chilly.
It's cool, man. Let's talk about it.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Sharon, how has your week been? I know that it was kind of a busy last week for both of us. So did you eat anything fun?
I am still recovering from my cold.
Yes.
It's been more than 10 days now, but I'm on the mend.
You are sounding a ton better.
Yeah. My voice is almost back to a normal pitch. But for the Memorial Day weekend, we decided to go on a road trip to Colorado.
Woot woot.
And I had caramel M&Ms.
Oh,
M&M. That was our road trip food.
Okay, I was going to say that is definitely. I was like, you ate that at a restaurant? Oh no, that's road trip food. So
yeah.
How did you like them? I have not tried them yet.
Oh, so I can't decide if I like them or not.
Okay.
I like them. They're not my favorite M&M.
Okay, well, back up really quickly. What is it just a little caramel center?
Yeah, it's kind of like a hard caramel center, similar to the little caramel squares that you get when you're going to melt them down.
Like the Brax.
Yeah, the Brax caramels. They're a little bit softer than that, though. Okay. And so that's what the center is like. And I was more expecting them to be like melty, like a caramello candy bar.
Caramello.
Yeah.
But you've got to imagine there's got to be some chemical scientist, chemical engineer trying to figure out how to make that caramel center do its thing.
And then there's the thin candy shell, and then there's a little bit of chocolate M&M as well as the caramel.
So is it a large piece of caramel, like in the relationship to a peanut M&M? Is it as large as a peanut? It's
about that size.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a pretty decent amount of caramel.
Yeah.
Not sure if you like it.
Yeah, I mean it's a little chewy. It's got good chew. I just wanted it to be melty and liquidy.
And you know what? When you have
I had too high of an expectation.
I was going to say, when you have an expectation of one thing and it's totally not that, it's, even though it might be good, it's still disappointing.
But I ate the whole bag.
Wow.
So it's not like I was refusing them and saying, out of here, caramel M&Ms.
What are your favorite M&Ms then?
Pretzel.
Really?
By far. Yep.
That's not my favorite. I don't think
What's yours?
I would either say the mint ones or the peanut butter M&Ms that come around Easter time.
Why the Easter ones?
Because they have a higher ratio of peanut butter. I don't know what the deal is. They're bigger and they just have more peanut butter in them.
Wow.
I don't know. It's fancy. I don't know what.
Okay.
They're better.
Peanut butter Easter M&Ms.
I'm going to swear by that.
I like the salt and the chocolate, so
I can get behind that. Sweet and savory. Mm-hmm.
With a good crunch.
Yeah.
What did you eat this week? Anything fun?
Yes. It was Lee's birthday this week. And I don't know what the deal is, but I'm not exactly sure how this got started. But whenever it's a birthday in our house, basically me, Lee, and Lucy's birthdays.
You buy Birkenstocks?
No, we buy Birkenstocks. He did get some Birkenstocks. He's kind of a hippie now. Anyway, we make hootenanny pancakes.
Hootenanny?
Do you know what hootenanny pancakes are?
Isn't it like a Dutch baby?
It's like a Dutch baby, a German pancake, there's like so many names.
Hootenanny's just fun to say.
It is. And I have a recipe for them that are German pancakes. And when Lee said that he had hootenanny pancakes, I was like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, oh, that's exactly the same thing that I make. Except for you guys.
Now you just call them hootenanny pancakes.
So this one is a really, if you don't know what German pancakes are or Dutch babies or hootenanny pancakes are, it's a really egg-based pancake. So I'll tell you.
You make in a 9x13 pan.
Yep, exactly. And you bake it for 20 minutes at 400 degrees. So, and there's like 4 ingredients. Okay, maybe 5 ingredients. So there's 6 eggs, 1 cup of butter. No, 1 cup of butter. Sheesh. 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of milk, probably 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter to grease the pan, and a pinch of salt. That's it.
Custardy goodness.
Yeah.
So how do you serve them?
We usually do peanut butter on them and syrup.
So do you cut them up like like a casserole?
Yes.
Okay. So you get like 12 pieces of hootenanny pancake?
Well, it ends up being like 6 pieces because we just like big pieces. Because they puff up really good.
Oh, you don't want to lose the puff.
Well, the puff goes out. When you pull it out, it's really puffy. But when you take it out, it deflates automatically. So it's kind of this little denser, eggy, cakey thing. I'm not sure. It's not sweet at all. But it's really good. I like it. And it's our birthday breakfast fare.
Because it's a hootenanny.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really good just because it's a special occasion. Happy birthday, Lee.
Happy birthday, Leland.
And now for the main course.
Okay, let's get down to our first topic at hand, refrigeration.
This is so cool. This is such a cool topic. I'm sorry.
It is cool.
So lame. I'm so lame. We decided to give this a whirl because it is so freaking hot here in Utah right now.
It is getting rather warm.
And when it gets hot, you just think about things that will make you cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Air conditioners.
Yeah.
Refrigerators.
Mm-hmm. I need to stay cool, people. So we are going to talk about the history of refrigeration. And we're going to differentiate a little bit because this is not about refrigerators only, though we will definitely talk about refrigerators, but also the process of refrigeration through the years.
Yes.
Or cooling things down. Right?
Chilling things out.
Chilling things out, right? Because
chill out your food.
Refrigeration is the process of moving heat away from one location and to another location so that you can have kind of controlled conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So in a nutshell, that's what refrigeration is. And I found the history of what people have been doing for centuries fascinating.
Ice, snow.
Yep.
Preserving.
Exactly. So the first known kind of history of ice, you've mentioned ice harvesting, is in China. It was before 1000 BC. Can you believe this? There's a specific historical text called the Shi King. And in that text, they have a little bit of there's a collection of odes or lyrics or something like that. And they talk about ceremonies where they fill and empty ice cellars.
Oh,
wow. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So, but there's not really too much about how that was done or anything. It just mentions it. So I cannot comment on what that looked like. Now, in other places, the Greeks and Romans, the Jewish people, they would also dig pits and put snow in them and insulate it with some sort of insulating materials that could be grass.
Fabric or fiber. Grass.
Yeah, some branches, that type of thing to kind of keep it as insulated as possible from the snow actually melting. Now, it's interesting though, there's not really any mention of this snow or this ice in this time, like I said, the Greeks and the Romans. They were using it not to preserve food necessarily. They were using it to cool their drinks down.
Oh, coolers.
Yeah. Like,
okay.
Have a refreshing beverage. That was a thing.
Sitting around the Parthenon and having an ice cold
something.
Okay. Ice cold one.
Yeah.
All right.
So I thought that was interesting. The Egyptians took it a little bit a different route. The way they would cool their beverages is that they would boil water and they would put them in these shallow earthen pots, jars, and put them on the roofs of their homes at night. And just because of how cooler it got, it would cool the beverages down that way. So, And on top of that, they would have slaves come in and wet the outside of the jars so that the evaporation of that water would cool it down even more. Does that make sense?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if you've got I guess if that's the way you do it, that's the way you do it. So I really liked this one. Was so interesting to me. So the Persians, they created something. They kind of had this structure, an ice pit. It's not an ice pit. It looks like an upside down ice cream cone. It's called a yakchal. I don't know if I said that right. I apologize if I didn't. Yakhchal. And it really does look like a beehive.
Huh. Okay.
And it's I'm going to try and put a picture of it into the show notes somewhere. So, but it basically means ice pit, and it's like a dome shaped structure, and they would store ice in there, or they would basically funnel water from the aqueducts into that, and then
and like just keep it cold down there.
Yeah. And they could even
so kind of like a well.
Kind of, yeah. And they could actually have some that would freeze in there depending on like what time of the year it was. Like in the colder times of the year, you could actually have ice freeze.
Sure. I mean, if the ground
water
is frozen.
Freeze. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Do its thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's kind of a cool little structure, and I will put a picture in the show notes. So like I said, it was cooling drinks was the main reason why we had all of these cooling methods, refrigeration methods in a sense. Mm-hmm. It was really super in vogue in like 1600 in France. And so before the Egyptians would cool it at nighttime and have the evaporation at night to cool their beverages. But people would actually start rotating long necked bottles in water in which saltpeter was dissolved. And saltpeter, we talked about this a long time ago. Mm-hmm. I can't even remember which episode we talked about it. It's potassium nitrate. And so it just makes it colder. Like when you make ice cream, it's a way to drop the temperature. So it just helps that along. So because of this, because you could get really super low icy temperatures, basically, by the end of the 17th century, you could make like frozen juices and ice liqueurs. And it was kind of a thing in French society.
Ooh,
yeah,
exciting.
So, but now let's kind of switch to food. How do you think people preserve their food? Did they preserve their food?
Well, yes, we've talked about that on our canning episode.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you could can, but that didn't really come along until later.
Mm-hmm.
So people were brining, salting, smoking things,
pickling.
Yeah, drying, curing, packing them in fat.
Yeah,
like a confit.
There were so many ways to basically keep things from spoiling. And unfortunately, there was a summer complaint of food spoiling in the summer, obviously, because of the heat. Hot. It's way too hot. Okay, can I talk a little bit about the ice revolution?
Ooh.
Okay, so there is a report that in 1799, the first commercially shipped ice out of Canal Street in New York City, it was cut and it was sent to Charleston, South Carolina. However, there wasn't much ice left by the time that it arrived there.
That's a long way to go back then.
Yes, it was. And at least they tried it. Like that was kind of like their first attempt to get it out there. I want to talk about somebody named Frederick Tudor. And there's a few other people that are partners in crime. And he is known as the Ice King because he knew this was going to be a thing. He was a businessman and a merchant, basically in Boston. He was the founder of the Tudor Ice Company. And he basically made his living, his fortune, cutting ice up in the New England area and sending it to Caribbean ports, Europe, and eventually India. Like India.
That's crazy. Like he sent ice all that way?
Oh, yeah. So let me give you a little bit of history about him, and then we can move on to modern day refrigeration and how that goes. But I thought this was so interesting. So Tudor, he didn't want to go to Harvard like his family did. And so he decided just to go into business. And after he went to the Caribbean one time, he's like, it is dang hot in here. I'm just speculating, but he's probably thinking it's dang hot here. I bet they would love some of this ice in a drink or something.
Oh, yeah.
So
sitting on the beach in a hammock.
Oh, yeah.
You need an icy drink.
Yep. So when he was 23, so this is in 1806, excuse me, I should have mentioned dates and such. He bought his first ship. It was called Favorite.
Nice. Okay.
And he was going to cut ice at his father's farm and ship it 1,500 miles away, 2,400 kilometers for those of you, from Charleston to Martinique in the Caribbean.
Okay.
So
in 1806.
And the Boston Gazette actually reported on this. They said,
as you would,
because this is quite funny if you think about it. Like, are you kidding me? that place
so
is hot.
He's going to have a bucket of water sent to.
It's just going to leak out, right? And they wrote, no joke, a vessel has cleared at the custom house for Martinique with a cargo of ice. We hope this will not prove a slippery speculation. So he was actually quite smart. He sent his brother down there to like start talking to the governments and everything like, hey, we've got ice coming down. You guys are going to want this. And so that's what he did, was just tried to get that going in that 3 weeks time that they were traveling with the ice in the brig. He was able to get it down there, though a lot of it melted. It didn't have a report of how much it was, but he did have ice still.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right? He did have a loss though. And as you'll see, he actually made a lot of money, but he lost a lot of money too in a few places. So you'll see that he kind of thought through, like one of the things that he tried to do was he would pack it in sawdust to try and insulate it, because that was free. Like it's just a waste product from the lumber companies and such. And ice was free. If you think about it, they were just carving ice from different ponds and different areas, rivers and stuff like that. They could just take it out of. So in general, he did pretty decent.
So was he only working in the winter then? Is that what it was?
I think he was probably doing a lot of it in the winter time.
Okay.
And then moving on. I will be honest, I have no idea how long ice stays. Do you know what I'm saying? Like at that time frame. And yeah, I have no idea. So anybody that's from the New England area.
So probably like 2 seasons, I'd bet.
Yeah. In 1810, he actually got his first profit. So he made $7,400, and that's
some pretty good money back then.
Yeah, in 1810, I feel like that is not bad. Though I feel like in some of the readings that I saw that he only really got about 1,000 of it because his agent or the person that was helping him with the money was cheating him or something.
Oh, what a jerk.
Yeah. So anyway, and I should have probably mentioned, when he gets to these places, they try and create some sort of ice house. Like, so in Martinique or in Havana, like when he goes there, they create an ice house to put the ice
to store it
so that it lasts longer than it would in the blistering sun. So that's what I think. So he tried a lot of things. He was like, well, a lot of those ships going from Boston area, New England area to the Caribbean are usually empty, right? And then coming back, he wanted to see if he could ship some limes and oranges and bananas and pears and have ice with it to keep it cool. But that didn't work out so well when he tried that. It was all rotten by the time he got back. I know. So he just kind of, he was at least super ambitious and always trying to think of the next thing that he could try. So the thing that really, really made a huge difference for him as he was kind of going through this and trying to figure out different insulations and things that would make it more worthwhile and make him more money is that he had a particular person that he came into contact with, Nathaniel Jarvis Wyeth, who created a metal blade to cut ice. Because before, it's all hand cut. And can you imagine how tedious that would be? Yeah. Hand cut, maybe not regular size pieces and such, but because of this, it's basically created mass production. Like they were able to cut large pieces of ice quickly and get it out. And it tripled his production by this patented metal blade that Mr. Wyeth came up with.
This is all the difference, people.
Yes.
You have to stay curious.
You do.
You have to stay curious to like try all of these different crazy things and have a ship full of spoiled fruit and water.
Well, and spend a couple years in debtor's prison because you lost so much. I mean, that's what he did. He had to do, not Mr. Wyeth, Mr. Tudor. So it was just so interesting. So there was another gentleman that he partnered with, Samuel Austin. He was from Boston as well. And he was like, hey, let's start selling ice to India because India is 16. It's dang hot there, and it's 16,000 miles away. What are you talking about? So basically 4 months of travel, and you're like, that does not.
Can you build an ice house in the boat where it's going to last for 4 months?
Yeah, it's crazy. So in 1833, they sent out a ship to Calcutta from Boston, and it held 180 tons of ice cut during the winter. 180 tons. So that was in May that it set sail. And by the time it got to Genghis in September of that year, 1833, it arrived. And of the 180 tons of ice, there was 100 tons left over. Oh, that's pretty good.
Wow.
You gotta admit, that's
180 tons.
Yep.
And there was still 100 tons left.
It's really,
wow. Okay.
it's pretty impressive, I think, that he was able to kind of figure out different ways to make it last a little bit longer. So one of the things that he used to do that kind of helped, I think, I mean, obviously you're going to insulate it as best you can with, he did wood shavings, he did sawdust, rice chafe. So one of the things that Mr. Tudor did in order to prevent it from melting was that once you had these ice blocks chopped up really nicely, with that really great metal blade to cut the ice, you could stack them together in just basically like bricks, just masonry, well-fitted masonry. So they kind of insulated themselves.
That's cool.
So it was they really thought through this and trying to bring this about. And then, of course, on the other end of things, when you ship the ice, they always had these ice houses and they just became such in demand. People just, cold refreshments, that's where it came from. You just got to have a cold one.
Wow.
I know, right?
So everybody started having ice houses then?
Yeah. Well, in these different countries. So like in particular, India had 3 different ice houses for storage. There was one in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. And once they started making ice by a different process than shipping it from New England, the particular ice house in Madras was sold, and it was later remodeled to become this really beautiful building. It's just a beautiful building. It's called Castle Kernan. I can't say the other name. It was the Vivekananda house.
Okay.
Sheeshamanga, that was bad. Anyway, so yeah, it's a building that was remodeled because the ice house was no longer needed because they were able to figure out a way to make ice on demand versus having to wait months for it to arrive from New England.
Nice.
So yeah, Mr. Tudor, Ice King of Boston, well, and of the world, if you think about it. And it really has, it was fun to kind of understand where we came from. And then that's when we start taking over talking about refrigeration in the appliance aspect.
Yeah, the modern world. You
know what? Actually, let me put one other thing in, is that ice was becoming much more popular back in the day. And eventually, I believe in 1865 is when it was, but 2 out of 3 households in Boston were having ice delivered.
Oh, yeah. By the ice block.
Yep. And they would put it into their ice box. Now,
Have you ever seen an ice box?
I have never seen an ice box before, but I can kind of imagine.
It's a cute little thing.
Is it?
Yeah. So it had like a wooden case mostly and like a cool latch like a metal latch on the front. Mm-hmm. And there was a spot in the back. So it opened up on the top and there's a little slot in the back. Mm-hmm. It's lined with metal of some sort. And there was a slot in the back that you would slip the ice block into. And
how big was this ice block?
I mean, like what today, like we go ice blocking, right? Oh. When you go to the grocery store and you get a block of ice and you go to the park and you put a towel over it and then you like slide down the hill in the summer. Yeah. So like it's a fairly large ice block and you just slip it in the back and then, well, this is the one that one of my grandmothers had, like an antique version. I've never seen it in use, but there's a flip top and you slide the ice in the back of it. And then your food goes in the front, but it's not that big. It's like the box that your food is in is, I don't know, like 1 foot by 1 foot.
It is definitely smaller than a college dorm refrigerator.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. And some of them weren't even that big. So they kind of made them, I've seen a couple of different sizes, but I mean, they're sort of the same size.
Yeah.
I think you could just kind of hand build them, some of them.
Oh, so, man, that is so interesting. I mean, besides just the whole, the Ice King, making things go around, sending things around the world, the natural ice supply was an industry unto itself. Like there were companies that were doing that. They were harvesting ice from different ponds and rivers and lakes and that type of thing. It was actually, there was a report that, Henry David Thoreau, we talked about him last week, actually. Yeah. His grandfather, rather. He was in charge of that butter revolution, everybody.
Harvard.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So they actually mentioned at Walden Pond, Henry David Thoreau's Walden Pond, they were extracting about 1,000 tons of ice each day in the year 1847.
1,000 tons a day?
Yeah. Like it was quite the industry.
Does that just drain the whole pond?
Yeah. I'm not there's got to be eventually some runoff and different snow, but that just seems like a lot, but It was a thing. Oh, can I mention one other thing? Because I didn't realize that doing the refrigerated railroad car and the first ones. So they started focusing on refrigerated railroad cars, and you will probably maybe get into more of the refrigeration part. But originally when they did this, they had an insulated car and they had ice bunkers in each end. So basically like an ice box, they'd stack ice in there and it would force air down into that area and push the air past the ice so it would cool it, and the air was dense so it would fall down by gravity, and it would keep the things that they were transporting cold. And so it was usually milk or butter, maybe some seafood that they were transporting.
That's smart. That's cool.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of an early version of a refrigerated car.
Yeah.
But maybe we should talk about when it actually turned.
So around the turn of the century, I think it was like 1906 or something, was the first refrigerator that was sort of invented, if you will. They started to become popular in the 20s, but still, even then, a lot of people still had ice boxes.
Yes.
So the goal of the refrigerator is to keep everything below 40 degrees, because 41 to 140 Fahrenheit is considered the danger zone of food.
The danger zone.
Yeah.
Danger zone.
Because bacteria grows the fastest in that temperature range. Too hot, it'll kill the bacteria, but just right, which is anything over 40 degrees that's humanly tolerable, right? Your food will spoil. So you end up with a whole shipload of spoiled bananas.
Shipload.
Yes. So how the refrigerator works is that it removes like you said earlier, it removes the warmth from the air within its interior compartments, and it relays that heat to the outside.
Okay.
So that's why when you're standing, maybe you're cleaning your refrigerator. I don't know if you've noticed this, but you're cleaning maybe around the base or near the back of the refrigerator, and you feel a lot of heat.
Yep.
Because that's where it's coming out, is either the base or the back of the fridge.
Right.
And you're like, wow, is my fridge overheating? No, your fridge is working.
It's doing its thing.
Yeah. So beginning in the evaporator, the Freon is heated, and then it begins to draw heat from the air within the refrigerator. And then having absorbed this heat, the Freon is then routed to the condenser by the compressor. And in this set of copper coils, which is usually mounted at the back or the bottom of the refrigerator, that's where that heat goes. And then the Freon returns to its liquid state, transferring its heat into the outside of the air as it does so.
So it is there is no waste in a sense.
Yeah, it keeps recycling itself.
Yeah.
Because after the cooling, the Freon goes back to the evaporator where the cycle begins.
Nice. Okay.
So refrigerators today are made out of, there's a few estimates out there, but one that I saw from Baltimore Gas and Electric was about 60% metal and 40% plastic, roughly. Those are rough estimates.
When was that reported? Sorry.
I don't know the date of that reporting.
Okay.
It's within the last few years is what it was cited.
Okay.
So modern refrigerators.
Okay.
So your stainless steel business. Yeah. So that's about the estimate. They say that there's roughly 123 pounds of steel in a typical refrigerator. That includes the internal workings, the racks, things like that. And then about 20 pounds of plastic.
Those are your shelves and probably insulation too. There's probably got a layer of insulation.
Yeah, there's layers of insulation, and it's like a polystyrene or something similar to that. early refrigerants contained lethal amounts of ammonia and methyl chloride.
Yeah, I read that too. I was like, what?
So that's before they created the Freon, right? And so if that ever leaked, which
I believe it
did, mass death ensued.
Yes.
Imminent death, basically, whenever that leaked. So in the 1920s, manufacturers started using quote unquote safer chlorofluorocarbons, such as Freon. And now we use like hydrochlorofluorocarbons, which are still, people say they're safer than like Freon and things, but it's still unsafe due to the ozone depletion.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably safe for us, but eventually it's going to kill us because it's going to.
Right. So a lot of people know what CFCs are because in the mid 1970s, scientists began to understand what the chlorofluorocarbons group were, which included Freon, and that they waft up into the atmosphere, the upper layer, which the ozone. And those CFCs gradually decomposed and they release chlorine atoms. Sorry, I can't read my writing. And so it's a form of, the ozone is a form of oxygen, and it's, you know, as we know, it's a protective layer around the earth from UV rays and other things like that. And so these chlorine atoms start to deplete the ozone and eat away at it.
Yeah.
So in 1987, representatives from a whole bunch of different countries around the world signed what's called the Montreal Protocol on Substances that Deplete the Ozone Layer.
Oh.
That's the official title. So in the 80s, you heard about like, you know, all of a sudden your favorite Aquanet has a different propellant.
So
now,
sad.
You know?
So sad.
So these countries signed this agreement and they agreed to phase out production of chemicals that were known to deplete the ozone layer. So including Freon. But there's still, the hydrochlorofluorocarbons aren't that much better because they're still known to deplete the ozone layer. But a lot of studies have shown that the ozone has repaired itself somewhat. The big hole over Antarctica in the ozone layer. It's not as big as it was in the 80s, I guess, because of this agreement, apparently. But global warming's still going on and things. And so there's a lot of, in the design world around refrigeration, a lot of steps have been taken to create
basically an environmentally friendly refrigeration.
Exactly.
Well, I bet it would be hard from a design perspective because it's basically evaporation off of right? I mean, they're using a chemical of some sort to.
Right.
Yeah, that's
so
tricky.
I saw a bunch of different things online that were talking about the future is magnets in refrigeration.
Really?
Yeah, but I couldn't get a lot of details on that, which is really unfortunate.
Anybody out there working with magnets to cool things? I think there's got to be something, actually. There's got to be something.
Yeah. So refrigerator designs, though, have improved to reduce the amount of Freon needed and the amount of like HCFCs needed.
I have a quick question. I've never thought about this before. Because the Freon is in a closed system in my refrigerator, I'm looking at it right now, I don't have to replenish that Freon. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because I don't think
your fridge is going to keep running. I mean, sometimes fridges break down.
Yeah. But, and that's the thing. I'm like, how does that get out into the atmosphere? But I guess when you take it to the dump, whatever, I'm just thinking about how those would escape. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, think about, it's not easy to recycle a fridge.
No.
It's not easy to recycle your appliances. There's been big initiatives like in the 90s and early 2000s, especially by electric companies, because older refrigerators are not energy efficient.
Yes.
And suck up a lot of electricity and whatnot. So there has been big initiatives in various cities nationwide in the United States to recycle your refrigerator.
Right.
So concerning the insulation, there's basically the components to the refrigerator. You've got your outside case,
which is usually the metal, right?
Which is metal.
The steel.
And then with your fancy stainless steel appliances, that's just a really thin layer of aluminum or something like that over the top. Or it's just like painted steel, like the white or the black or whatever. So you've got that outside casing, and then you've got the inside cabinet, which is plastic, right? And then in between that, they put like a foam insulation, basically.
And that stuff's got to be pretty good, actually. It's probably gotten tons better.
Yes, it has. So the CFC containing insulation can be replaced now by the same kind of vacuum insulation that's being used in thermos bottles. So there's been a lot of research that indicates that the vacuum insulation is more efficient in terms of both space and energy. But at present, it appears that insulation alternatives will become viable well before Freon substitutes.
Whoa.
So we're still using Freon, people.
Right now.
So think about it when you upgrade your kitchens.
What are you going to do with that refrigerator, people?
Yes. What are you going to do with those appliances? You can take them to, usually like Best Buy has a really good appliance recycling program. You can look online for other recycling programs.
Just be smart. Don't just take it to the dump.
Right.
Or there's got to be some, I don't know.
There's a better way.
Check around locally and see what is available, because
and if you have a modern appliance, and if you're just, switching out because you're remodeling or redecorating, consider, selling it online at a discount.
And let somebody else use it.
Or Habitat for Humanity.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I like our refrigerator, and I can tell that besides the design portion of like making it more efficient and using better materials and that type of thing, I will say that the advent of having the freezer on the top, move from the top to the bottom, I think it's a good idea. Let's talk about that. So I am a fan of the freezer drawer on the bottom. Yeah, me too.
The actual drawer. I've seen where it's a freezer cabinet on the bottom. There's also the side-by-side, which became super popular in the 70s and 80s.
Right. I don't like those.
No, I don't think that's a good use of space.
No, it's not. I agree.
Especially when you create them almost equally.
Yeah.
It's not a very good use of space.
I think the space, if you have the refrigerator part at the top, those things are at eye level. Those are the things that you access the most, I feel like, at least the way I eat.
Right.
Because we use our freezer on occasion. We eat ice cream sometimes, but not that much.
Yeah. But still, the freezer cabinet on top and the refrigerator cabinet on the bottom still remains the most popular.
It is. That's my current setup right now. And I
too.
kind of wish I had the freezer on the bottom, because I feel like I neglect certain foods because I just can't see them.
Yeah.
And I'm short.
And if you're shopping for new appliances, and depending on where you're shopping, that's, at least in the United States, I've noticed, it's actually getting more difficult to find the standard format with the freezer cabinet on top.
Yeah, I haven't. It's been a while.
And it's getting harder to find one that doesn't have a water feature, the piped in water.
I don't want a water feature.
It's sometimes difficult to find.
I don't want it. I feel like there's possibilities of flooding.
Well, there's lots of possibilities.
Well, breaking.
If you have an ice maker that kind of cuts into your freezer, your freezer space, you've got the flooding issue. You could always disconnect it, but then you've just got this pointless thing in the front of your refrigerator.
Not cute.
Yeah.
I will not have that.
Really popular is the water on the refrigerator doors, and getting more popular is that freezer drawer on the bottom, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's I think there will be less food waste because of that.
Yeah, well, and you can more easily access it. It's usually larger than the standard freezer on top format.
Yeah.
It's usually a little bit larger, and so you can see everything that's in there, use your freezer more efficiently, like freezer meals and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree.
Then there's so have you looked at design through the decades of refrigerators?
Well, I got really excited just because I thought of a 70s refrigerator we once had in an apartment, and it was like yellow. It was not the bright
Harvest gold.
Yes, maybe that's Harvest Gold. I was just kind of thinking of like chartreuse color. Is that a color?
Chartreuse, I think, is more green.
Yeah. Just that, those 70s colors for sure.
Harvest gold.
And you know what? Like
an avocado green.
Yep. And now that you say that, I was like, stainless steel is a very trendy thing sometimes. And then kind of all white appliances. I mean, there's, yes, you're definitely.
In the 80s, it was kind of a beige. Everything was beige. 70s, you had the gold and the greens and brown, the dark brown. 80s kind of saw a little bit more of the brown and then a lot of the beige. Then 90s brought the white.
Yep.
And then it transitioned to black for a while, and then it kind of came back to white, and now it's the
stainless steel.
And now they've got the matte stainless steel. And they've got it in matte black.
I think I would like that because I think stainless steel gets yucky.
Well, there's no fingerprints with the matte. And then the black is just kind of like, hey, you fancy.
Hey, you fancy.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool ones that I saw online. Pink was super popular in the 50s.
And I think even that powder blue, you know,
the pink and the powder blue were very popular. They made appliances in all of those types of colors. And they kind of, some of the, I guess, design magazines back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, were putting refrigerators at a cabinet level. So like an upper cabinet level. So it was more a rectangle on top, and it kind of matched your cabinets a little bit.
What?
Or you would just have this like funky pink rectangle above the sink kind of a thing. And
weirdness.
That was your refrigerator.
That's
your
weird.
freezer.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Kitchen design, interior design, and trends and stuff like that are fascinating to me because you're like, somebody thought this was a good idea.
But then, like, if you are into some of those like HGTV shows where they like house hunters in Europe.
Yes.
Like so European friends, if you're listening, like I've seen a lot of under cabinet refrigerators that are kind of like my college mini fridge almost.
Well, they probably space wise, it's an issue. So I think it really depends on where you live too. So
space and lifestyle, because there's a lot more fresh market stands in Europe. People shop for groceries more often during the week.
Yeah. I think we actually probably wouldn't need such a big refrigerator because we are at the grocery store every single day.
Right.
Pretty much.
Except you have a lot of condiments.
We like condiments and we use them a lot.
We do too.
Many sauces.
My entire door is full.
Yep. Condiments. That was a good episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was interesting. What is your refrigerator like, dear listener? We'd like to know.
What's your dream refrigerator like?
Right.
Do you like your current refrigerator? Do you hate your current refrigerator?
I kind of love my mother-in-law's refrigerator. My in-law's
I've seen
refrigerator.
it.
It's nice.
I'm trying to remember what it looks like.
I like that one. It's the open doors, 2 doors, and they go out.
2 doors side by side and come out.
Out. And then the refrigerator, the freezer on the bottom.
Nice.
It's nice. I like it. So
yeah, I live in a large place, but we have what's known as an apartment. So in the US, it's known as an apartment size refrigerator, which means it's a tiny freezer on top and a slightly smaller fridge interior, which the refrigerator interior works for us. It's not bad. It's usually pretty full. But it's like, hey, we've got all this food to eat. But the freezer is just the pits. And so I've been thinking about getting my own standing chest freezer.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
For the garage.
That's not a bad idea at all.
So more to come on that.
More to come on that. Well, I feel like we covered that very cool topic.
It's cool, man.
I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. It's late.
Our podcast is brought to you by our awesome and food-loving sponsor, Zip Schedules. So do you guys own a business? Do you own a restaurant, or are you a restaurant manager? So this works for both restaurateurs and small business owners. And one thing that is time consuming about managing employees is that you have to schedule them. And that can be really frustrating sometimes because everybody's got a different schedule and different preferences. So if you're a restaurant manager, you've got servers that request time off and food runners that need time off, or they need to switch a shift. Employees are constantly switching up their availability when they can and can't work. or they're calling in sick at the last minute. So Zip Schedules can help you juggle all of that. And it takes that huge responsibility and load right off of your hands.
And like Sharon said, those scheduling tasks can just take up a lot of your time as a business owner. And with Zip Schedules, though, they have a lot of just cool capabilities so that you can go ahead and communicate with your employees. They can communicate with one another so they can swap shifts and update their availabilities. It's really kind of a slick little system there. So you know what? And they have offered our listeners a fun little discount. You can, first of all, get your first 30 days free by visiting zipschedules.com. And if you end up using our promo code HUNGRY, and that's HUNGRY in all caps, you'll receive an extra 20% off each month for up to a year when you sign up.
And they have an app.
Yes.
So both you and your employees always have access to it. That's included in your membership. And everybody has 24/7 access through their phone on this app.
Yes, it's pretty slick. So once again, visit zipschedules.com and enter the code HUNGRY, all in uppercase, to get 20% off each month. So thank you so much, Zip Schedules.
Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is a segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Wait a second, really quickly, Sharon.
What?
We need a quick call out to people. We need your food fight questions, people.
Come on, email us.
We're kind of running low.
Even if you've already resolved your question or your issue at home, maybe our listeners need to hear what you did.
Yeah, so write in, people. hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Please.
Okay.
And thank you.
Now on to the question we do have this week. I think, Sharon, you have it?
Yep.
Okay.
So this question starts off, or letter, says, wedding season is here. I haven't been to a wedding in a few years, and now I've got 5 weddings all this summer.
Oh, dang.
Do you have any wedding food tips for the not-so-savvy wedding guest? I know there's proper etiquette here, but what is it? I don't want to make a fool of myself in the buffet lines. Thanks. Signed, Rusty Well-Wisher.
Oh, well, that's exciting, but that is a lot of weddings.
It is a lot of weddings.
But that kind of happens sometimes. It just comes in waves, at least for us. So,
well, yeah, that's kind of when it rains, it pours.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations to your friends or family members.
And congratulations to you because you get to help celebrate and eat yummy food.
That's fun. I'm hoping they're fun.
Yeah.
Sometimes weddings can
be a drag sometimes.
They can be a drag. So I would just say maybe my first thing is don't eat all the shrimp at the shrimp cocktail dish.
I would say don't cut in line.
Yeah, don't do that. Because people, well, and I guess it depends on what kind of wedding dinner or reception she finds herself at.
Yeah, so if you have in your invitation, if there is an RSVP notification at all, always RSVP.
Yes.
And do it sooner than later.
That just is so nice to the bride.
It gives them an accurate head count. And sometimes if you have, especially if there is any kind of a sit-down dinner included in the wedding, which happens quite a bit, they will give you an extra card to mail back, like a postcard or something, and requesting to know your food preference.
Right. And you want to fill that out.
You definitely do.
So.
And I've heard, just a standard rule of thumb / caution, always go with the vegetarian meal.
Really?
Yes. It's usually more creative and fresher.
Interesting.
So if you go with the beef, a lot of times that's not going to be to your liking because it's overdone. It's been sitting under a heating lamp.
Yep. Okay.
So it's hard to get, the perfect medium rare or medium. Sometimes it's going to be overcooked, and the chicken can be bland.
Or the seafood
can be sparse.
Fishy.
It's still the same shrimp cocktail that you had during the drink hour while they were taking pictures.
That's interesting. I've never thought about that before. Okay, so do that if it's a sit down something.
I've only been to one sit down dinner wedding, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It's been I've been to a few, so I try. You're right. I try to RSVP. So do that. I would say that is number one. Now, if it's more of an open reception, maybe an open house of some sort, you can see a variety of things at those. They could be full on buffet lines where you're like, I'm getting a meal here.
Yeah, but I would also, it depends kind of on the time of your reception.
Yes.
So if it's during the dinner hour, they'll usually have at least heavy hors d'oeuvres.
Right.
Or they'll have like buffet or bar lines, like, here's our make your own taco bar, make your own potato bar, or, whatever, that kind of thing. Like those are really popular right now. Mm-hmm. Buffets are also really popular. So it kind of depends on if it's during like a dinner hour-ish type thing, or if it's a little bit later and there's also going to be dancing. Yeah. Then that fare tends to be a little bit lighter. Or it tends to kind of focus around like desserts and that type of thing.
Right. And I would say that if it is hors d'oeuvres, please don't hog them. Don't make it a full-on meal.
Yeah.
I think that's the etiquette.
Stash a granola bar in your purse.
Just in case.
Or in your wife's purse, or in your pocket, whatever. Just, a little protein bar to get you through. Sometimes you don't know. So if you if you genuinely don't know on these invites whether there's going to be food or not, I would take a little snack.
Or just eat a little beforehand. Mm-hmm. And then if there happens to be food, then great.
Yeah.
And if or you can just hit up the Wendy's afterwards.
Exactly.
Unless you need to dance the night away, and I get that. So
I will give a word of warning. I have seen before, years and years and years ago, I saw someone take Tupperware to a wedding.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I sure did.
Oh, that's tacky.
And it was more than one piece of Tupperware.
Oh, that is super tacky. Oh my gosh.
It was like a really nice wedding. They had a really nice buffet. So it was a meal, but it was a buffet style. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And since it was buffet style, apparently this woman knew that it would be buffet style. And so there wasn't going to be, it wouldn't be heavily attended. Some of them are and some of them aren't.
Yes.
So it seemed to me like she knew what was going to happen.
Oh my goodness.
Because she took this Tupperware and she loaded it up and then she put it in her purse.
Wow.
And
don't do that. That's tacky.
And this woman was an acquaintance of mine. This was many, many years ago again. And so I knew that she wasn't hard up for food or anything. She was just taking Tupperware to the wedding.
Oh, that's no.
Oh, man. But I would think another thing is to definitely compliment the food, even if you don't necessarily love it, because the bride and groom, the bride especially, I'm sure, has spent hours and hours
agonizing
over this food.
Agonizing.
The food tasting and the menu planning.
And just how much money they're shelling over.
Yes.
For it. You guys, be nice about it.
Be just very gracious.
Because people, depending on whatever their circumstances, can spend a lot on their food and others cannot. So just be gracious, because they're asking you to come celebrate with them. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. So have fun at your weddings.
I know. We're going to a wedding this weekend.
You are?
We are.
Oh, we are.
I was like, Sharon, you're going to.
Yes, I am too.
You better be.
Right. No, I'm really excited for this wedding because it might be the venue that we choose to get married at next year sometime.
She's scoping it out.
I'm scoping it out. Yeah. So I'm really excited.
I think it'll be fun. Okay, well, good luck, Rusty well-wisher.
Yes, good luck.
You'll do great.
Thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, where you can listen and see our show notes. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music.
Hey, everybody. We have t-shirts for sale.
We do?
We do. So we created a Facebook shop.
Awesome.
Because that's it's just as easy to do it there. So
you can check us out on Facebook. You can't listen to any episodes there, but you can see our Facebook Live videos.
Yes. So check those out, because we had a lot of fun doing all of those. And buy a t-shirt, share it, love it. And just realize that it may take us a minute to get it into the mail or deliver it to wherever you're living. I hope, if I can deliver it to somebody in Italy, I'll totally do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so t-shirts. Last thing, we've extended the survey just a little bit longer. We just wanted to extend it 1 week because I totally forgot about Memorial Day. So Memorial Day weekend. So it's going to close on June 9th, the contest. So enter, put in your email. You could win a $20 gift card to Amazon.
Excellent.
Yes, it's good. So, okay, we'll see you next week for the next episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry squared, yeah, hungry squared.